Hi, welcome to the Tournament Center. I'm Zac Hill, and I'm here with Stanislav Cifka, Pro Tour Return to Ravnica champion, and Martin Juza, longtime pro veteran. And we're going to talk about their blue-white-red control deck for Modern. So just really quick before we get into the specific cards, can you tell us just a really brief overview kind of what your deck does and how it wins?
Well, our deck is a control deck, and its goal is to stabilize the board and answer everything your opponent do and slowly win the game with the threats you have, and like most focus on card advantage and all the answers. So.
All right, slow, grindy card advantage.
Yeah.
I'm interested. All right, let's look at what some of those cards are. So we start out with a way to survive and kill creatures. We see Lightning Bolt, Helix, Electrolyze, and Path to Exile. Now, a lot of decks play 4 paths. You're only playing 2. In general, how did you arrive at this particular removal suite?
The Path to Exile doesn't very work well with mana leak, so we didn't want to bring extra lands to other people, so we just need not as many of them because, we don't want.
It's not a great combo with mana leak.
Yeah,
it's not good with mana.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and but we need some on creatures we cannot reach with the Helix and Lightning Bolt because it deals only 3 damage. So if someone plays bigger creature, we need some answers. So Path to Exile does the work. Yeah, you don't want more of them, and you focus on cheap removal like Lightning Bolt because most of the creatures are like small. You can kill them.
They have less than 3 toughness.
Yeah. So you just blow them up with 1 mana, and it's very good. And the Helix brings you life back, so it's very important against aggro decks because you gain 3 lives, and they cannot burn you out. And
The thing is, you do only have two paths, but you have Snapcaster, so you can use it more times.
Yeah,
so
it gives you extra
you are playing 2, but you can pretty much use it 4 times over the course of the game.
And before this, y'all were telling me actually that Electrolyze is one of the most powerful spells in the format. Now, clearly it's card advantage, but 3 mana for 2 damage, not necessarily intuitively the greatest rate. Why is that card so good right now?
Well, let's imagine your opponent play Burst of Paradise, and you blow them up with 1 card, and you draw another one. So it's 3 for 1. So it's very good in this example. And
I like 3 for 1.
There's a lot of excellents in the format. There's like Lingering Souls, Mana Birds.
Dark Confidence.
It's Wendy on click and so on. So.
Cool. So I like gaining card advantage and killing my opponent's creatures. All right, cool. Let's look at some more of the ways that we deal with threats that aren't necessarily creatures. Now we see 4 copies of Spell Snare, 3 copies of Mana Leak you mentioned earlier, and of course 4 Cryptic Command, which as far as I can remember, I want to play 4 of in every format that it's legal. How did we get to this particular suite of counter spells?
Like the Cryptic Command is an obvious choice because it
pretty much what you said.
It doesn't even counter spell. It's like tapping her opponent's guys to.
It does everything.
It's like Time Walk. Sometimes it's like stopping combos, and so it's clear that you want to play 4 of these. And the Spell Snare, you have some problems with some creatures like Tarmogoyf and the Dark Confidant and the key spells that cost 2 mana like Voice, and some combo cards costs 2 mana as well, like the Scapeshift has ramp for 2 mana, they play Remand, and so it's really important to have 1 mana answer for these cards. So that's why they are for Spell Snares. And the Mana Leak, I don't know how to explain this. It's simply counter spell.
It's just a good counter spell, just a solid
you need
counter spell.
it. You're not. Counter spell is not legal anymore, so you have to play Mana Leak.
Well, we can't always get what we want, I guess. All right, so that's how you deal with some of the early threats and how you deal with what your opponent's doing. Let's take a look at what happens once you get there. So we see 4 copies of Snapcaster Mage. Now, earlier you were saying Snapcaster Mage lets you play like 2 paths, 3 mana leaks, some one-offs that we'll see later. Explain exactly how that works.
There's so many cheap spells in the deck. There's like Lightning Bolts and Mana Leaks and Path and whatever.
Spell Snare,
Spell Snares. So it lets you play the card again on say turn 3 or whatever, and plus you have a body that can block a 2/2, like trade for another card. It's just card advantage.
Sure.
It also provides you quite fast clock. Let's imagine you play against combo and you like Lightning Bolt on turn 2, and on turn 3 you play Snapcaster end of turn and Lightning Bolt, and suddenly you have very fast clock. So they have to move on, and you catch them with counter spells. And
it pretty much lets you change gears against some decks. You play a really long game, just kill everything they play, whatever. Or you can just do this. If you play against a control deck, you can just play him on turn 2 and just start attacking.
Okay, cool. So we see him. We see Sphinx's Revelation. It's kind of good in every format that it's in. It's a really good spell. Gideon Jura, a little bit atypical. Explain to us why he's in the deck.
Well, like his advantage is his loyalty 6 and his plus ability puts him to 8. So if someone's playing like burn spells like lightning bolt or like whatever,
yeah,
they have
and a lot of decks play lightning bolt.
They have big problem to reach him because let's imagine you playing mirror match and you play him and put him on 8. Then suddenly they have problem to solve it, and also it's good in killing creatures like Tarmogoyf, and it buys you a lot of time against aggro decks like Affinity, and it stops for one turn the Splinter Twin combo.
Sure.
So yeah, it's very useful.
That's a good
card.
point too.
Yeah. So.
All right, cool. So these are kind of how it starts to end the game and capitalize. Let's take a look at the next slide. These are sort of some one-offs you play. I know Think Twice ties the deck together. Pyroclasm, some additional redundancy against smaller creatures. Shadow of Doubt, really good against Birthing Pod. It combos with Path to Exile too.
Yeah,
right?
and it's the best is against Scapeshift because it's like counterspell against them, and they even play like Cavern of Souls and Primeval Titan, and it's the only way to stop this combo. So we probably need this card, so that's why it's here. And it's also catch the fetch lands because let's imagine you sacrifice your Scalding turn 2 and you get Shadow of the Doubt, and it's like...
It gets people, it gets people a lot. And they feel so bad when
that's
that
the main part, right, is that they feel terrible about it.
Everyone feels like, oh my god, you have this? Oh man.
Sweet justice. Okay, so that takes us through the spells. Let's look at the lands really quickly. Obviously, Celestial Colonnade, that is how you kill people. Tectonic Edge disrupts mana bases, can deal with opponents' other creature lands. Yeah, totally.
Colonnade's great.
If we can look at some of the rest of the lands, this is stuff that you see in Modern a lot. I mean, obviously, the fetch lands, Sulfur Falls kind of not something you always see. How did you decide that that's something you wanted to play?
Just an extra dual end.
Extra dual
comes untapped without having to pay 2
It doesn't give you any damage. It's good against aggro decks that you save some life, so it's very good in the deck.
Like
you just don't want to have multiple of them because if you draw them all with the Colonnade and Tectonic Edge, it could come into play taped. So it's the reason why we are playing only one, but it's very good in the deck.
You can afford one, but one copy is really good.
Yeah.
Cool.
The extra copies would be much worse than
too much.
The first one.
Sure. Okay. So, and then finally, of course, the rest of the lands, we've got the Ravnica fetch lands. So let's take a look at the sideboard really quickly. Now, there's a lot of one-ofs, and the basics. You kind of need those every once in a while. So now let's take for real a look at the sideboard. These are cards that you have in your main deck already. You just kind of board them in the matchups. They're good. I want to take a look at a few specific cards, though, that aren't in the main deck. Baneslayer Angel is something that always puts a smile on my face. Teferi we haven't seen in a long time. Why are you playing him?
The Teferi is good against the control decks and against most of combo decks because you cannot afford to tap in your own turn.
Right.
So it's very good to you just put in on the table and then you not worrying about what they do in your turn at the end of turn. So it's very powerful on the board. So in the grindy matchups, it's very good. Yeah.
Sure. And like Mind Sensor
is against the Scapeshift and
right.
And the Baneslayer, the good thing on Baneslayer is that you don't run many creatures.
Sure.
So your opponents don't know whether they should keep their removal in or not.
Right.
And if it hits the board and your opponent doesn't have an answer, it's extremely powerful. It's like stops the whole army.
Yeah, I mean, it wins the game by itself. Okay, so a few more incremental cards we can take a look at. We've got a Wear and Tear, obviously good at killing enchantments and artifacts. Hallowed Burial is a card I'm really curious about. You were saying you were, sort of agonizing over whether you wanted to play this or Wrath of God. Why pay the extra mana to put creatures on the bottom of libraries?
Well, there are plenty of creatures on the Modern that stays on the battlefield even after that. The kitchen things are very problematic for you. The Murderous Red Cap and the Voice of Resurgence.
Sure.
These are the main reasons. And if you imagine you playing Wrath of God and then your opponent use Township to put the counter back on things, it simply doesn't help you much. But when you are playing Brewer, you simply destroy all of them. So
sure.
It's 1 mana is worth to invest in.
You pay the extra mana to make sure stuff stays dead. All right, finally, we're going to round this out with just a bunch of ways to win some counter spell fights, I think. We've got Dispel and Counterflux, really good in the mirror. Sowing Salt, obviously against Tron. And Threads of Disloyalty to steal things like Dark Confidant and Tarmogoyf. Cool. All right, well, thank you guys very much. I'm Zac Hill here with Stanislav Cifka and Martin Juza. This is the Tournament Center. Let's watch some more Magic.